All right, we got some news for the Houston Texans. I think kind of slid under the radar as we went through the second half of the week. And I think it's an important thing to understand. And look, we know the Texans right now with CJ Stroud. He's been absolutely spectacular. And anytime you have an exciting young quarterback or any quarterback in that matter, what really matters more than anything else is the relationship between the play caller, usually the offense coordinator, sometimes the head coach, and that quarterback. That relationship has to be ironclad. It has to be perfect. It has to be one of mutual respect, but it also has to be one where the offensive coordinator and play caller does everything he can to alleviate blame and stress on the quarterback. That's what the great ones do, and that's what the Texans OC is doing. We've got a report from the Houston Chronicle highlighting an example of the offensive coordinator doing just that, especially when it comes to the critical interception CJ Stroud threw late in the game against the Bengals when they were up 10. Let's start with the report, then I will read from it. Again, this is from the Houston Chronicle. That was a poor play call. Texans offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick said in his weekly press conference Thursday. Probably for me, looking back on it, we know what we were expecting to get, which wasn't what we got. Regardless, it was a really hard position to put the quarterback in. I love that statement there. That one, I really didn't like that play call. If I was to judge myself, that was probably the worst play call of the year. The play on 3rd and 2 from their own 28-yard line was one the Texans had run earlier in the game against the Bengals. Quarterback CJ Stroud was lined up under center. He ran a play action fake with wide receiver Tank Dale running a crossing route across the middle of the field. The first time they ran it, only 4 minutes earlier, it worked. Stroud had found Dell open for an 11-yard gain on a 2nd and 8 with 8:11 left. The second time with 3:41 left in the game, it did not work. And what should have been a game-ending play almost became a disaster when Bengals quarterback Cam Taylor Brake picked off Stroud, returning it to the Texans' 2-yard line and setting up a Bengals touchdown. I love Slowick coming out and doing it. And here's why. In any situation, if you're the quarterback, you have to know the Texans, as Texans fans, I'm sure you'll remember, you're up by 10, 2 scores, 3 minutes to go in the game. The Bengals, I think they only had 1 timeout left, maybe 2 at that point. 3rd down and 2 situation. Look, run the football. If you're going to play action, if it's not wide open, hit the deck, keep the clock rolling. You're up 2 scores with 3 minutes to go. You've got like a win probability of 99%. The only thing you can't do is something egregiously bad. And for the quarterback, CJ Stroud, you have to know that. If the guy's not wide open, hit the deck, throw it away, whatever. You can't turn the football over. That is on the quarterback 100%. I blame CJ Stroud, honestly, for that turnover. But what I love about Slowick here is that he's coming out publicly and saying, that's on me. Bad play call. I screwed that up. Worst call of the year. And I guarantee you, in that relationship between Stroud and Slowick, because Stroud knows he screwed up, right? He knows that's on him. He can't make those kind of mistakes. But I guarantee you, Slowick coming out publicly and saying, hey, that was my bad, that's going to do wonders for this growing relationship going forward. And it's going to do wonders for CJ Stroud. And for that reason, I think this was a great move by the Houston Texans. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on everything with the Texans, specifically this growing dynamic relationship between Slowick and Stroud. But Houston fans obviously coming into a kind of an interesting matchup against the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday. Cardinals have been a frisky, feisty team all season long. They play a lot of teams close, and now they have Kyler Murray back, so even more dangerous. Going to be an interesting matchup. In the comments section below, give us your prediction. Final score, Texans versus Cardinals. But Miles, what do you think of these comments by Slowick and just everything going on with Stroud and the Texans this year?
I think it's great. I think it's the new era of coaching in the NFL. Kind of not to be so hard nosed, not to be, so strict and straightforward, almost Belichickian in a way. But we've always seen how the Belichick disciples have come out of New England and the way that they try to, commute that system around the NFL. It never really quite works. It's truly just a Belichick way of running it. That's the only way it looks. Now, we look at, and Slowick is a Shanahan disciple. All of these guys from the Shanahan system that have come out throughout the NFL, they have this type of thinking, this way of doing things, and I think it really works pretty well. You look at Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins, he does the same thing. He's a great players coach, takes the blame. He's on the player's side. He's never going to throw anyone under the bus. Even Robert Saleh up in New York, he's always like, we like Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's good. I've seen improvement. He's never really thrown anybody under the bus. He's kind of just, doing what he needs to do to get the players on his side. Obviously, D'Amico Ryan for the Texans, he's doing great things as well. And, I think this is something that's coming out of that Shanahan coaching tree, is a coaching style, that newer age coaching style. And I really have seen a lot of success about it. So I love what's going on with Slowick. I love what's going on with CJ Stroud. And like you said, this is a new relationship. I think this is the best way to start out. Because you could get like Josh McDaniels, Matt Patricia-esque guys come in and absolutely just like be hard-nosed guys, be really difficult to play under, almost even, I think, an Urban Meyer-esque guy, where they say he's like just a tyrant on the field. That doesn't work nowadays. What we do see work is CJ Stroud putting on a career, definitely offensive rookie of the year MVP style of performance. That is what we like. And Slowick and this coaching style, this new coaching style, I think this is a future in the NFL, Nick.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. That's a great point with Mike McDaniel and Tua, right? A lot of people were considering Tua a bust. McDaniel comes in. He's very openly and public for his support for Tua, takes all the blame, gives Tua all the credit when it's a good thing, takes all the blame when it's a bad thing. And we see where the Dolphins are today. Very similar dynamic with Stroud and Slowick here. But I also want to remind people that when you talk about any locker room, any coaching staff, the interaction between the player and the coach, people tend to forget at the NFL level, it's much more of a colleague dynamic, right? A lot of us who played in high school or played in college, like I did, even at D1 college, which I played at, you're going to have the coach is the boss, right? The position coach, play caller, he's the boss. You're clearly underneath him, right? That's just the dynamic there. But when you get to the NFL, it's much more collaboration. They're at the same level. They're essentially colleagues in a lot of cases. In fact, sometimes the players like a Brady or a Peyton Manning at the end of their career are above the play callers and things like that. So it's a very important, much more than it is in college or high school, to have a good working relationship, because it is a working relationship. Phil Simms, a former quarterback of the Giants who now does broadcasting and things like that for CBS, he detailed one time in his career when he had different play callers, different coordinators. Sometimes when a coordinator called a play or had a scheme or something like that, he'd say, "Oh, this is great. This is awesome. This is going to work." And like that would be his body language in the huddle and things like that. Other play callers, that play would come in and just be like, "Oh, this is just another stupid play he's calling," right? And trust me, that really matters, because the rest of the players on the field and the locker room will feed off the quarterback's energy. If there is a good relationship there between the play caller and the quarterback, that creates good vibes through the rest of the locker room and builds confidence that things are going to execute. And look, we know whenever Stroud makes a mistake, what goes on behind closed doors in the actual meeting rooms and the film rooms, that'll be corrected. It's not like Stroud isn't getting coached. He is definitely 100% no doubt getting coached and getting coached hard. But when it comes to the public dynamic of this relationship, creating a colleague, collaborator kind of vision right here is the right way to go if you're Slowick, if you're the Houston Texans. This is just smart. I love how you brought up the fact that a lot of Belichick disciples take Belichick's hardline stance and try and incorporate it, and it's a total disaster everywhere else. That's dumb. Josh McDaniels has proven himself to be a rather dumb coach in terms of building and working with quarterbacks outside of New England. Slowick and the Texans and D'Amico Ryans, they're being smart. And we know CJ Stroud's been spectacular. We know they've drafted extremely well. We know D'Amico Ryans has done a great job with that defense. But let's give some credit where credit is due to Slowick and the intelligent ways he's running his offense and manning the people as well.